But as a woman who studied in the West, who's coming back to her native country, has written a script in English, then it gets translated, then you work with your actors. They also, contribute in kind of, giving life to your vision. So in this kind of highly collaborative process, how do you then, or what do you think about the idea of a woman filmmaker having her own voice and having her, let's say, a very distinctive gaze? Do you believe in that? And if you believe in that, how does that um, how does that make sense to you? And what do you
Just
think?
go. Okay, I'll just go back to what you're saying before a little bit about changing the script while you're filming. I think for me also, because I'm the writer also, so it's easier for me. It's easy for me to, I'm writing. So I think it might be different if you have a script writer and that script writer has certain vision about the story. And I had that problem with my first film. I collaborated and I had creative differences with my co-script writer. So that can happen also, and that's why I kind of prefer to write alone now, because I think I have a very distinct vision of what I want. When I want to make a film, I think one of the thing is I really know what I want, and I go for it. You know, uh, so I think I believe, and to come to your second question, I believe that representation is political. So if a Black person were to make a film, a woman to make a film, a queer person were to make a film, any person making a film would bring in their own experiences. If you and I set forth with the same script today and we have the same budget, and even if we have the same actors, we will come up with two different films. Yeah. That's just the nature of the craft. I always say that filmmaking is like a mirror. You can't cheat. You are going to come out. It's your something inside you will externalize in those images. So I believe in that. And, as for being a woman, like I told you, I have a background in gender studies, and I still go back to gender studies, kind of like a foundation for me. And if you look at the history of art, if you look at the history of literature, not only moving images, but history of visual arts, you go to all the museums and you look at the art that's hanging there, it's mostly males looking at women's naked bodies and representing them. Whereas the woman is defenseless. She doesn't even have any clothes on, And so the woman is always on the other side of the gaze, where she's being looked at. Also, since the beginning of the history of cinema, woman has been put in front of the camera. Mm-hmm. She's offering this erotic surplus on the screen. Whenever she appears, something has to give. There has to be some pleasure to the visual when she appears. Whereas the male is going to drive the narrative and drive the story. And, even there is a recent documentary, I forget the name of it, which is such a shame, but the director has looked at how women are shot and lit in all the classic masters and how there's a big difference between the way a woman is being represented. So, here we are in 2022, and cinema, since the beginning of its history, has used women's bodies, still uses women's bodies, but women don't have the agency in cinema. Globally, we don't have the number of male director and female director. There's a huge imbalance. So I think there's an imbalance in the universe of images that we have. And personally, I grew up in those images, the male regime, and I'm constantly having to undo myself. But when I look at younger women now, they're growing up, they already have positive images, they already have positive role models. So I want to contribute in that process, is creating a more balanced narrative in the world where the screen is diversified with different stories and different experiences. And that doesn't limit to women. I'm very interested in the images of Black people in American cinema, and how does this America's this big population of America, this African American population in America, how have they been represented since the history of Hollywood? And only now we have directors like Barry Jenkins, we have directors like Ava DuVernay who are coming forth with a very political voice and telling us stories like, you know, the Underground Railroad, which is a story that I would never know if Barry Jenkins didn't show it to me. So I feel I kind of want to follow that politics of making films that's about women who have not been represented in cinema before or not been represented as humans, like, you know, without sexual appeal. Like Shimu doesn't have sexual appeal, but she has so much other appeal. You want to keep watching her. So I want to show women as individuals, not just women as a sexual being, which is, I think, how she's mostly represented in cinema.